Lowe's knows tough jobs call for tougher tools. The new DeWalt Elite Series power tool accessories are built to last for the pro who doesn't stop. With precision fitment, durability, and impact resistance, finishing jobs faster has never been easier. Shop the new DeWalt Elite Series at an everyday low price exclusively at Lowe's. We help, you save.
In the quiet of my room, I read the light. Words on pages like stars in the night.
Welcome back, all you beautiful people, to another episode of Fight Depression with Knowledge. My name's Dylan here, and we're going to bring you another episode. Apologize for a little bit of the delay. Kind of was going through a couple things, but, we're going to talk about it on this episode. So, with the Fight Depression with Knowledge, we're going to gear it a little differently, but not only for today's episode, but also going forward. I've done a lot of soul search in the past, couple months, but really a lot in the past couple weeks, and found a lot of good writings by a gentleman, Carl Jung, if anybody's familiar. Very, very enlightening. For anybody else going through possibly a spiritual journey, I definitely recommend checking out some of Carl Jung's. He wrote a book back in early 1900s about three types of people or consciousness or something along those lines. I'm still getting into it, but a lot of things do resonate really well with me, and at the time right now of kind of what I got going on. So we're going to talk a little bit about addiction today, and the episode will be titled, this one's for the addicts. Just to clear this up, my name's Dylan. I'm an addict. And that goes with a lot of things. So, me saying that, me admitting that, they always say is the first step. But I feel great. I have a very addictive personality. I can't jump into anything lightly. I fully go in, and it's been something that I've noticed in my getting healthy journey that, I have those tendencies, the addictive tendencies. And whether it's with alcohol, whether it's with drugs, whether it's with caffeine, whether it's with, used to be video games, I'm just finding that it's okay, So if you guys are out there listening to this and you're kind of going through your own little spiritual journey and kind of coming to grips with a couple things, just remember to be easy on yourself. Remember to be easy on yourself. Even if you are going through something crazy, give yourself some grace. And with that, I've been on my own little journey here. Like I said, I apologize for the delay in an episode. I kind of was going through something, had to do a little bit of soul searching, and came out the other side better than I was before. Realigned with a mission, but also changing gears to that mission. And with that, I really want to do an episode for the addicts. People like myself who, might be struggling out there and might not be sure they're the only ones. They may think they're alone. But just know, guys, even if you're not going to things like AA and NA, there are other addicts out there. And sometimes, and this is something I had to kind of figure out, is sometimes you need to be around others who can understand and be a little bit more receptive to it. And I'm not saying you just, go right out and jump into, one of those programs, but what I will say is, give yourself a chance. And if it's something that, you think you might need a little extra help on, no one's going to judge you in them rooms. I mean, at least for the, everybody being there for similar reasons, you're definitely going to get judged, but of course, everybody judges everybody on, especially new people, newcomers. But, regardless, is if you want to be there and you feel like you might need help from other random people who are battling with the same issue you are, I trust you to do it. I did it. I'll be straight up. We're going to go back and do a little bit of history here. That's what a lot of this episode was going to be about. It's going to be a little bit about my life, how I've come to where I'm at here at 32. But also in this point, my dad is a recovering alcoholic. When I was about 14, 15, I spent a little bit of time with him going to like some of those AA meetings, just kind of supporting him. And at the time, the rest of the family, I was the youngest one. So, I was still in school, like kind of, I was able to support him. And, remember hearing, I would listen a lot and that's all I would really do is just observe and listen and, of course, get maybe a coffee or a snack or something. But I remember learning like a lot of things then, and I didn't have any alcohol problems at the time, of course, or drug issues. But I remember just hearing a bunch of good advice, like a bunch of just love and connections with the people that my dad needed to be around, other alcoholics at the time. My dad likes to say that, he was addicted to drugs as well. But he likes to say that when he tried NA, the people's stories would always sound too good and he'd want to go use. Totally valid. But what that tells me is that, he wasn't ready to stop those things either at the time. So he just maybe focused it on alcohol, but, really might have, if you're still getting triggers from hearing people speaking, then, you're not fully ready. You're going to get triggers, Now listen, everyone, I just want to clear it up real quick, but, they're in this journey. I'll never compare myself to others because I've heard stories and, I know how bad drugs can get. But I would never compare my journey to others because what I might tell you today, somebody in that room might have had it 20 times worse, right? But I can't compare that because that's not my life. This is my life. I'm going to talk about my interpretations of what I'm going through and help guide others there too. Not just to the rooms, but I mean to your inner peace, your if you want to break free from an addiction, you can do it, It may seem like you can't, but we're more powerful, as I talked about before, like we are a lot more powerful than we give ourselves credit for as human beings. And we control our own narratives. So with that, I'll bring back up quick about the just a little bit of time in AA and, kind of, watching my dad go through that. He ended up going, again, very clearly who I get my addictive personality from. My father. He jumps into things full-fledged, and with that he jumped into AA full-fledged, started going to all the events, started going to the volunteering and all that stuff. That's what he needed to do. So that's what helped him. That's what he needed to do. I'm glad that he did it. Today, to this day, he's still sober. I don't know the exact amount, 20 plus years maybe. He's only had maybe one or two slip-ups that I can really even think of. Minor slip-ups. But he was at a point in his life that, he couldn't live with it and he couldn't live without it. And he found the strength around others to get through it. So, we're going to back up a little bit, not quite that far back, but it was a couple weeks ago, maybe about a solid month. I've been using cannabis for about 16, 17 years. So it actually started a little bit after like that AA and stuff. Maybe like a year later. So no, that didn't have, I'm not thinking anymore about that kind of stuff.
Lowe's knows tough jobs call for tougher tools. The new DeWalt Elite Series power tool accessories are built to last for the pro who doesn't stop. With precision fitment, durability, and impact resistance, finishing jobs faster has never been easier. Shop the new DeWalt Elite Series at an everyday low price exclusively at Lowe's. We help, you save.
Was introduced to cannabis with some friends, as most people are. Didn't know it at the time, but all it took was trying it one time, and I was addicted. In my friend group, I was the one who wanted to do it again the next day, or the day after that, or maybe the day after that. When all my other friends were okay with, hey, okay, let's, we'll do it next weekend, or 2 weekends from now, or whatever. So I very quickly found out that, and I didn't know it at the time, but I became addicted early, very early. And with people with addictive personalities, we trick ourselves. Oh, this is helping me, or this is, I was going through a little bit of, my parents were going through a little bit of something at the time. So, this is, numbing some of the pains of being a kid and all this nonsense. And the rest was history. 16 years later, 17 years later, I'm sitting here today at 32 years old. I've never taken a break. I've never went a day without consuming it multiple times a day. And for most people listening, they're going to say, okay, yeah, you just, that's a normal pothead, fine. But it's not. It's really not. A normal person might be able to wake up in the morning, do their wake and bake, go to work for 9 hours, whatever, come back home, bake again, whatever. Or, being around in the cannabis industry, I know the stoners who will bring stuff with them, and, I was one of them, But the point is I never, for 16, 17 years, I never let myself go with a correct frame of mind. I've always had an alter mind. Like, my mind has always been altered from almost the minute that I get up in the morning to the minute that I go to bed. And it gets exhausting, y'all. It gets really exhausting. Not only the money that you spend, but just you lie to yourself. You tell yourself that, oh, okay, this time will be different. I'll make this strain last longer, or I'll bulk up and get a half ounce, and then, I'll make that last longer, and then you lie to yourself, and, you're blowing through it because it was good, and before you know it, you're in the same cycle. Just want to preface this. I do live in Florida. I have my medical marijuana card. So everything's completely legal. It's completely medical. Okay. So I'm not doing anything criminal here, y'all. But when the federal government still decides to treat me as a criminal just from working in the industry, then I feel a little bit more like a criminal. But I digress. That has to do with a home loan, and that has to do with me working for like 6 years in the cannabis industry and making it to the top as a general manager. And, all of a sudden we're at the very end stages of our home loan and we get denied because of my income. That was deflating. But I digress. That was a little bit different of a situation. But it gets exhausting, y'all. Some people may never get to this stage, and I hope that you don't. Uh, I've loved it for a long time, y'all. I've been the one in the family that at every get together, they knew where to go if they wanted anything. I'd have, I went through my party stages, my college years of drinking, where I was out at the bars and drinking a bunch. But even then, cannabis was still always my first choice. Made some, other poor choices along those lines, but can honestly say that, never, did anything else or got addicted to anything else that, would have harmed me at that time. But let's talk recently about, I was on a 2-week tolerance break. I had it, I fed up. It's been like 2 years now. If my wife was right here, she could co-sign. There's every once in a while, I talk about just not wanting to do it anymore. I don't want the drama. Sometimes I think of Eminem. I really do, y'all. I think of Eminem and his song Not Afraid and no more drama from marijuana, only focusing on my responsibilities. I'm not a father right now, but I'm a dog father, but, I feel good. So there's about a month and a half ago, because I, found my way back. The addict in me found my way back. But I went 2 weeks. I went 2 weeks without it. And I felt great. Motivation levels are high. Everything. Just, I feel good mentally, physically. And I remember to this day, it was just not too long ago. I remember I let myself trick myself back into it. I said, oh, okay. So you did it for 2 weeks. You proved that you can take a break. You proved you don't need it every day. But don't you need it for medicine? Don't you need it to help your body? Or can't you just do it once a day? No. I can tell myself that. I can start out that way. And before you know it, back to all day long. Back to the mornings. I think at this time it started out with me telling my wife, I think I can do it. I think I can go back to doing it medically. I think it'll help me. It'll be nice. I'll just do it at nights with you. We'll just do it at nights and we'll be good to go. I'll go all day. I won't do it. Yeah, what a lie that was to myself and to her. So I apologize to her for that. But that's what we do as addicts, we always are finding ways to manipulate the situation. We're always finding excuses to go back. And I think this time, y'all, I might have finally did it. So I think I'm on day 3. Day 3 right now with no green. And I feel great. Yeah, I got triggers. Of course, we all do. When you've been addicted to something for 16, 17 years, it's not going to be easy. But as I've talked about in a past episode, back when I first was dealing with this, it was with my newfound spirituality, and I was kind of, a lot of my fears and worries about stopping some of my addictions, because I was scared stuffless, like we most people would be. Those weights were lifted, and I really couldn't figure out why. Was this me figuring out? Now looking back into it and hearing some of the videos from Carl Jung, I was breaking down one of the veils. They say there's 3 veils. Go look into it a little bit. This stuff is interesting stuff, you guys. And guess what? It's not religious. It's all about yourself and about your individual self and your higher being and all that stuff. So they don't really tie it back to religion very much. Um, if anything, they tie it back to, Jesus said, we are God. We live, the kingdom of God lives inside of us. So if you want to take that and run with it to the Carl Jung thing, totally fine. Totally fine. I see some similarities, but also that stuff really hit it home for me because, you know, my mind works differently than others. Um, from almost anybody that I know in my life, my mind works differently. I see things differently. I decipher messages differently, like what people are telling me differently. I always called myself a big picture guy, but it's just different. I think of things on a big scale, the cause and effect, the what today's decision might do from 4 months from now. I'm a big picture guy. But with that, there are other people out there like me, and I had no idea. Here I am thinking, either something's wrong with me, or maybe I had undiagnosed ADHD, or you start thinking of all these possibilities, and why is my brain different? Why does my wife think this way, but unfortunately I'll start an argument this way because that's how my brain thinks, right? Thankfully, I'm not like that no more. I have found a way to catch myself in even if the information is valid, I no longer have to say it because I'm thinking too much into it. I'm thinking further than the normal brain is. So if I'm worried about this, that other person might not have even considered it yet. You see what I'm saying? So why would I bring up a worry or a possible argument if it's not even the case? So here I am going through 6 different scenarios in my head of what could happen, and we're not even there yet. We're not even there. So the Carl Jung stuff really stuck, y'all. And I'm going to be every waking moment. I'm transitioning from the podcast a little bit, like listening to the podcast. And I still listen to all my current episodes of the people that I like, and a couple other people I'll throw on and find great new information from them. But I was poking around on YouTube the other day, and one of the algorithms popped in there something from Carl Jung, and it's just crazy because I didn't type in anything. I don't go on YouTube and search videos. I don't do that anymore. I just mainly it's podcast or Spotify or whatever, So the fact that it's putting in little algorithms, maybe even if it's based off of, because I have a YouTube channel, Fight Depression with Knowledge. I have my podcast on the YouTube channel for other people who may not come on to Spreaker or Spotify or Apple. I got it out there for them so that in case somebody wanted to support me or listen to it, they can. They don't have to download something. They don't have to create an account or anything, or they don't have to pay monthly on like a Spotify. So I kind of, I want to just get it out there. It hasn't really got too much traction, but maybe the algorithms are pulling it up from that. I don't really know. But, what I do know is the information has been exactly what I needed this past week. I was really going through it, y'all. Really going through it. I couldn't tell you why. Well, I could tell you a little of the reason why. So I found myself, I may have talked about it on other podcasts, but I know it's tough sometimes if somebody were to just listen one episode. We're busy. It's hard to just be like, oh, let me go look at this other guy's stuff. Totally fine. Totally fine. So, with that, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. I heard my dog bark in the in the room, so it threw me off. But the information I needed at the time, was amazing. I was out on medical leave at work. Anybody had listened to my cannabis industry podcast, I was no longer had any ties at the time because I was out on leave. Well, they were going to terminate me. It's always a hassle, by the way. If you ever think that you're just going to like through the company, you pay for short-term and long-term disability. I was able to get short-term disability, but they, come hell or high water, they weren't going to take my doctor's paperwork and switch me to long-term. They were fighting me on it. So with that, I was about to get terminated. So that was a lot. Never been terminated from a position, and never had like a health injury like this keep me from working. So I tricked myself into thinking that I was okay enough to give it another try. And boy was I wrong. Boy was I wrong. So that'll bring me into the next, I guess, topic here. I was in a car accident a couple years back. Still dealing with a lot of repercussions from it. Had the double disc replacement neck surgery. At the time, the surgeon told me that he could do the neck and the back. So, I always knew that I would need back surgery, inevitably, if not like now, and then I'm going to need it one day. Got some pretty severe herniated discs and, sciatic and all that good stuff. But with that, I had some history with, I guess you could say, harmful medicines. I had some history. I had this Cymbalta episode, which, I see that one has been one of my most listened to episodes, and that really excites me because that means people like to hear my experiences, whether good or bad, and because I just put it out there to try to help others. That's it. I can say today that I am officially off Cymbalta. As of that episode, I was taking like doses every couple days just to like get it out of my system. Well, I haven't taken a dose in well over a week now, so I can honestly say my battle with Cymbalta is over. Knock on everything. And that, guys, is still to this day. Trust you. Go on Reddit. Go to the Cymbalta groups. It is a dangerous drug. But just because it isn't a narcotic doesn't mean that it isn't making people sick. But with that, we'll talk about narcotics since, I was in a car accident, pain medicine, surgery, right? You kind of guys go where I'm going with this. Like I said, I got an addictive personality. And for some people, that could lead to some dangerous stuff. Now, I was getting them from a doctor, right? Not going doing anything illegal. But the thing is the medical industry is so corrupt now that the people who really need the painkillers usually can't get them because of the others who are seeking them for the wrong reasons, right? And now I got to be careful because I can't say all the others that are in there doctor shopping don't have medical issues. Maybe it's just too hard for them to get it, so whatever. But my point is the issue is bigger, and it's completely on the medical industry and how much of a scam that it actually really is. It's not just narcotics they want you hooked on for life. It's things like Cymbalta or even Tylenol or my one-a-day leave or, whatever the case is. But those things are dangerous. If you need them for medical reasons, I'm not going to judge anybody regardless, right? If you're listening to this and you're like, man, he's talking about me. Maybe maybe he doesn't like people like me. No, because I've been a person like you. during those college years, I was doing them for the wrong reasons. They were introduced to me by a friend, or so I thought. And I had my battles then. And ever since then, they were something that, and this is crazy to admit, that I enjoyed more than cannabis. And that is wild, because cannabis and me had a 16, 17-year relationship. Narcotics and me, we were short-term, We were short-term. But with the addictive personality, you can't do what a normal person can do. You give them to somebody like my wife, she'll be scared to take a whole one. She might take half. She don't want to be loopy. Fine. That's a normal average person. Most people don't want to feel those effects, right? Totally normal. It's people like myself that make it hard. You got to think, my injuries were very, very severe. Other than my surgery, it took me almost 2 years to even get on a low dose tramadol. And for all the addicts listening, that isn't nothing. You literally know that tramadol is nothing. Very low grade. Real people, real heavy addicts would just laugh at me even friggin' mentioning that name. Because I know back in the day, during my college years, you couldn't catch me finding or messing with that stuff. You're looking for whatever, we're not going to mention it. But, it took me about 2.5 years to finally find a doctor. After numerous MRIs, numerous herniated discs, 2 disc replacement surgeries, I found a doctor to just give me those, the lowest grade. For someone who was in a car accident, I couldn't even get anything in the ER after my car accident. When the ER nurse tried to act like I was faking, when I ended up needing a double disc replacement surgery and herniated discs. So it's so corrupt and so aggravating that when you're actually in pain, you can't even get any help. So with that comes the ever-ending cycle of getting a prescription that fully doesn't even help, and now you're flying through your medication just to feel painless, pain-free, right? So what happens? 4 or 5 days, you're out of your script. You got to wait 30 days. Is it worth it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But the point is if they actually gave a dose or a medicine with the correct dose, 1 time a day might be all I needed. Maybe I wouldn't have to take more because I'm hurting, or because I can't get up, or because I can't walk. So with that, I recently found how much of a scam the medical industry actually is. The ER people don't do anything for you. They always have attitudes. They judge you. Just help. Your job is to help. Your job is not to get me in and out of there as fast as possible. That's not your job. I digress, though. But my point is a person like myself with an addictive personality, whether it be, like I said, cannabis, whether it be, like I said, medicine that I need, I can't handle what normal people can do. Maybe, like I said, if they gave me medicine that fully helped, maybe, but I can't do it. Can't do it. So, with that, I'm on this spiritual journey. But I'm doing this episode for fellow addicts. I hope I didn't say anything in this podcast that would like kind of get me, in trouble or whatever, turned off or whatever. But anything I said, it's the government gives to you, so it shouldn't be anything that anybody should be surprised with. But we gotta try to change it, and for my fellow addicts, this one's for us. I stand here today. Let me get the exact amounts here. Let's see. Bear with me here 1 second. Just gotta pull up a calendar. I said stand here, but I meant sit here. I sit here today, August 20th, last week. I believe it was Wednesday, 5 days ago. That was my last day taking the tramadol. So 5 days ago. I do not plan to ask the doctor for another prescription of that. If I decide to keep going down the medical industry scam, I will be going to get a second opinion from a surgeon, because the first one tried to got me in and out of there like 5-10 minutes. I paid a $200 copay. I saw him for 5 minutes, and he says, let's try physical therapy, and if that doesn't work, we'll do shots. All right, bubs. Did that all for about 2.5 years now, but you're the expert. And then that was it. I'm done. Took his opinion, and I said, I'm done with this. I'm done with the medical industry. So if I decide to get a second opinion, because I do need back surgery, I'm going to go to an actual neurosurgeon or a neurologist. Don't take what I said and don't get yourself looked after. Make sure you are taking care of yourself, but just remember too, it's just such a scam. $700 for a saline bag. I hate to say it, y'all, but I have bills, just recent bills that like, it's so much. They're for nothing. Like, they're for nothing. And I owe tons of money to the ER for no reason. They didn't help me. They didn't do nothing. And I owe them money. So they can get in line. They can get in line for now. And when I'm able to address them, we will. But like I said, this one was a little bit different today. This is Fight Depression with Knowledge, but my name is Dillon, and I am an addict. I have addictive behaviors, and I'm going to start really, really trying to push my story out there, and everything that has kind of happened to me in the past couple of years to that aligns me to where I am today. I trust anybody with that weird brain that I was talking about before. Look into Carl Jung. Things will start to make sense for you. I promise. I promise. You are not alone. We are not alone. And people with weird brains like us, we have a purpose. So go check it out. And, I'm still researching into it a bit. I'm still, learning more about it. But, it's kind of blowing my mind a bit. And it's absolutely everything that has happened to me in these past couple months. All my spiritual awakenings, everything. The coming to the truth, everything. So today's episode is going to be titled, This One's for the Addicts. But I need y'all to know that don't judge me. Don't judge me for this. Because I stand today here to bring you wisdom from what I went through. To bring you love and acceptance and knowing that you will be okay. We will be okay. Whether you believe in religion or not, the fact is that, we are spiritual beings. Whether you believe in the religious side of it or not, we are spiritual beings. We can do way more than they want us to realize. And once we wake up, which I see a lot of us are starting these days, but there's still so much more. And our job isn't to wake everybody up. It's not. We can't. It's a mission that will never be accomplished because not everybody is chosen to wake up. It's not everybody's job to be a bridge. It's not. So once you look into a little bit of the Carl Jung stuff I'm talking about, it brings you some inner peace. It really does. And I'm ready to take on my next chapter with this podcast, but also, I want to help people like me. I want to help people who may have been suffering for 16 years, 17 years with a cannabis addiction that you thought was okay, right? I'm not here to tell you that it's not okay, but if you think it's not okay, then that's when you should do something about it. I'll never judge another human being in my life for the actions that they choose to partake in. I can't do it because I'm not perfect. I can't judge nobody else. I'm still learning. I'm evolving. I'm becoming a brand new person, a person who I'm excited to meet. I'm excited to be with. I enjoy my alone time. I go out to the gym now. My lower half of my body, really bad. Okay? Really bad. But that doesn't mean I can't try to take care of my upper half for now. Strengthen my neck after that surgery. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. Had to pause the podcast. My dog... Okay, bear with me again. Gotta pause it. Sorry, y'all. Lost my train of thought about twice now. Apologize for that. Had a couple phone calls that came in on me, and then my dog decided to scratch at the door, so you probably heard that in the podcast as well. Bear with me one more moment. My dogs have decided that they want dinner, and I am not getting it fast enough. So, we're going to wrap this up here, and I'm going to do a part 2 episode of this, because I'm not done talking about this. I'm a changed man today as I sit, and I want everyone to know that it's okay. You'll be okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to evolve. It's okay to be better than you were yesterday. And to all the people out there still struggling, there is hope, and it all starts with you. It really does. So this one's for the addicts, y'all. This is Fight Depression with Knowledge. Ended it a little weird today because of the little interruptions before. I had a nice train of thought, but my dogs are going crazy on me right now. It's almost feeding time at the zoo. So I'll probably end up picking this back up with a part 2 so I can ramble on after I listen to the episode and fully see what I covered. But I'm not going to edit it. Maybe one day I'll get hip with that and start editing episodes, but I want everything to be raw. I want everything to be as it's coming out. I'm not trying to pretty up everything for anybody. These are just straight words of wisdom from me, from my past experiences. And, we're taking a slight turn from the conspiracy into a more wellness side of things. a more spiritual journey. It's not so much conspiracy podcast, more or less as it is with yourself. Spirituality podcast? I don't know. But this is Fight Depression with Knowledge. We're going to be covering still a bunch of things. My name is Dillon, and I have an addictive personality. We'll see you guys soon. Stay blessed and stay tuned, y'all.